So now, in this video, we will discuss about how Himalayas actually formed. So let's just proceed. Now, Himalayas are fold mountains which are formed due to the collision of continental tectonic plates. So we know that Himalayas formed when Indian plate collided with Eurasian plate, and both Indian plate and Eurasian plate are continental plates. In the previous video, we have discussed that tectonic plates are of two types. They can have continental crust or oceanic crust. Now, in our case, Eurasian plate and Indian plate both are continental crust. So just look at this image. Imagine this to be the Indian plate and this is the Eurasian plate. So when two plates of both continental type collide, then the crust at the boundary of the two plates will get compressed due to compressional forces. And a series of folds will form like this. And these folds are nothing but fold mountains. And in our discussion, they are Himalayas, as simple as that. So let me just repeat this one more time. The Indian plate collided with the Eurasian plate. So Indian plate is continental crust as well as Eurasian plate is also continental crust. So when two tectonic plates collide, both having continental crust, the crust or the material at the boundary of the two plates will get compressed in the middle. And then it has nowhere but to go up. So the material will be uplifted, it will be folded, and a series of folds will form. And these folds are nothing but fold mountains. And in our example, those are nothing but Himalayas. So that is how fold mountains actually form. I hope you understood this. Now, fold mountains are formed due to compressive forces caused by collision of two convergent plates. So what do you mean by convergent plates? If the tectonic plates are coming together, they are convergent plates. And if the tectonic plates are moving apart, they are divergent plates. So in the previous video, we have discussed that the tectonic plates are in constant motion. So why tectonic plates move, that we will discuss in detail in geomorphology. But the tectonic plates are in constant movement. Sometimes the tectonic plates come together. Then they are called convergent plates. Simple. So Indian plate and Eurasian plate both are continental tectonic plates. When they both collided, the crust at the boundary of the two plates got deformed. It got uplifted because it has nowhere else to go. The crust got uplifted, it got compressed, so a series of folds formed. The crust folded. Those folds are nothing but the Himalayan mountains, which are fold mountains, as simple as that. Now, just look at one more image for the sake of clarity. So, two tectonic plates having continental crust are converging here. So, the material at the boundary of the two tectonic plates is getting compressed. Okay, so a series of folds are forming, which are nothing but fold mountains. That is how the fold mountains form. Clear? Now, we know that Himalayas are formed when the Indian plate collided with the Eurasian plate. And we also know that once upon a time, there used to be Tethys Sea between the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate that we have discussed in the previous video. So there used to be Tethys Sea between the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate. Now, about 50 to 30 million years ago, the Indian plate collided with the Eurasian plate, and the Indian plate began to subduct under the Eurasian plate. Now, what is the meaning of subduction? We'll discuss next. Please don't worry about that. But the important point you have to keep in mind here is about 50 to 30 million years ago, the Indian plate collided with the Eurasian plate. Now, the collision of the two plates and the consequent subduction of the Indian plate caused compression and uplift of land, due to which the sediments of the Tethys Sea were compressed and folded into three parallel chains of Himalayas about 30 to 50 million years ago. Okay, so let me just explain this. Just imagine this is the Eurasian plate and we have the Indian plate here, and in the middle we had Tethys Sea. Eurasian plate, Indian plate and Tethys Sea. So when Indian plate came close to the Eurasian plate, the oceanic crust of the Tethys Sea got compressed and then it got uplifted. Okay. Now, due to compression, a series of folds formed, which are nothing but Himalayas. So Himalayas have emerged out of Tethys Sea. Himalayas are formed from the oceanic crust of the Tethys Sea. I hope you're understanding. Let me just repeat this one more time without wasting much time. I just want to give you some clarity. We have the Eurasian plate, which is continental crust. We have the Indian plate, which is also continental crust. Now we know that somewhere between 50 to 30 million years ago, the Indian plate came close to Eurasian plate and collided with the Eurasian plate. But there used to be Tethys Sea in the middle. So when you say Tethys Sea, it means oceanic crust. Okay. So when Indian plate came close to the Eurasian plate, the oceanic crust of the Tethys Sea got compressed and it got uplifted. So the compressed crust formed a series of folds, and those folds are nothing but Himalayas. So the Himalayas have formed out of the oceanic crust of the Tethys Sea. That is the reason we have this point here. The Himalayas have emerged out of the Tethys Sea. Now, geographically, the entire Himalayan region can be divided into three parts: the Himalayan ranges, the Trans-Himalayas, and the Eastern Hills. These three ranges run more or less parallel to each other. Okay, so we have three parallel ranges of Himalayas. We have the Himalayan ranges, the Trans-Himalayas, and the Eastern Hills. These are more or less parallel to each other like this. Okay, now just look at this point. The sediments of the Tethys Sea were compressed and folded into three parallel chains of Himalayas about 30 to 50 million years ago. Clear? So, I hope you understood this concept, guys. So, the sediments of Tethys Sea, the oceanic crust of the Tethys Sea, got compressed and it got folded into three parallel ranges of Himalayas. So, the entire Himalayan region can be geographically divided into three parallel ranges: the Himalayan ranges, the Trans-Himalayas, and the Eastern Hills. Now, these three parallel ranges of Himalayas have emerged out of the Tethys Sea in different phases, following one after the other. Clear? So, these three parallel ranges of Himalayas emerged out of the Tethys Sea one after the other in different time periods. So, that is how Himalayas have formed. Clear? So once upon a time, in between the Indian plate and Eurasian plate, we had Tethys Sea. So when Indian plate came close to the Eurasian plate, the oceanic crust of the Tethys Sea got folded, and a series of folds formed at the boundary between the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate. Those folds are nothing but the Himalayan mountains. As simple as that. So we have three parallel ranges of Himalayas. And these three parallel ranges have emerged out of the Tethys Sea in three different phases, following one after the other. The rocks of the Himalayan mountains have marine origin. Clear? So, what is the meaning of subduction? So, previously we have understood that the Indian plate is subducting under the Eurasian plate. So, what is the meaning of subduction? Subduction is a process that takes place at convergent boundaries of tectonic plates. What do you mean by convergent boundaries? If two tectonic plates are coming close to each other, then the boundary between them is convergent plate boundary. Clear? So subduction is a process that takes place at convergent boundaries of tectonic plates, where one plate moves under the other and sinks into the mantle due to gravity. Okay? So just imagine this to be the Eurasian plate and this is the Indian plate. Actually, you cannot imagine this to be the Indian plate because Indian plate is continental crust. But here in the image, we have oceanic crust. You can see the ocean here, right? So just for the sake of example, imagine that this is Indian plate. Okay. So let me just repeat this one more time. Imagine this to be the Indian plate and this is Eurasian plate. But this is wrong here. So why is it wrong? Indian plate and Eurasian plate, both are continental crust. But in this image here, I'm showing you oceanic crust. You can find the ocean here, right? So just for the sake of example, just for understanding this, just imagine that both are continental crust, and this is Indian plate and this is Eurasian plate. So the Indian plate came close to Eurasian plate, it collided with the Eurasian plate, now it has nowhere to go. So the Indian plate will start subducting under the Eurasian plate into the mantle. Now this is mantle. Okay. So what is the meaning of subduction? One tectonic plate will move beneath the other tectonic plate. Now compared to Eurasian plate, Indian plate is a smaller plate. Okay. So here Eurasian plate did not subduct, but Indian plate subducted under Eurasian plate. Clear? So due to this subduction also, the material here will be uplifted. So due to uplift and compression, a series of folds will form, and those folds are nothing but fold mountains, and in our discussion they are nothing but Himalayan mountains. So I hope you understood this, guys. Now the northward movement of Indian plate is still continuing. So the Indian plate is still moving ahead and the Indian plate is still subducting under the Eurasian plate. So please keep this in mind. This is a very, very important, a topic, and this has been asked many times in the exam before. So the Indian plate is still moving into the Eurasian plate and the Indian plate is still subducting under the Eurasian plate. So there are evidences to show that the process of uplift of Himalayas is still ongoing. Okay. And the present rate of uplift of Himalayas is around 5 to 10 millimeters per year. So the thing we have to understand here is Himalayas, which are already the highest mountains in the world, they are still growing in height at a rate of 5 to 10 millimeter per year. So why Himalayas are growing in height? Because the Indian plate is still moving ahead into Eurasian plate and the Indian plate is subducting under the Eurasian plate. Clear? So due to this forward movement and subduction, the uplift of Himalayas is an ongoing continuous process. And it is expected to grow like this for many more million years to come. So that is how Himalayas have formed. Clear? So thank you so much for watching this video and I wish you all the best. Thank you.